investors care an awful lot about sustainability these days, and we have leading exponents of that on the panel. Tenants and occupiers have always cared about location, they've always cared about rent, they've not always paid that much attention to sustainability issues. And certainly that's been my experience in Germany. As of sort of 4 or 5 years ago, has that changed?
I think it's gone up on their awareness list for sure. I think it's gone up that they'd like to have it as a priority as well. The question still remains, are they willing to pay for it? But I think that's across the board. We think it's a marketing advantage at the end of the day. If it's a pricing advantage, it's a different story, depending on who your tenant really is. We would prefer to continue, greenwashing our portfolio potentially. To continue, we buy leads. It's one of our main things. It's not a no-go if it's not certified. We're not going to buy it, but it needs a good reason why. If it was developed in the last 2-3 years, why it doesn't have a certificate. And Germans love papers and certificates and stamps, and it gives it a bit more color. So we like it as an investor. We very much are focused on it. We would look at our whole assets under management to try to give them some sort of certification. We screen them. We monitor the energy use. We monitor our improvements that we do to the assets. So we really are very active on that side. If the tenants reward it, honestly, in the fight for fewer potential tenants in a 20-year period of time, I think it's an advantage to have and to sell to the tenants. But I think it's something that the owner has to take more on his shoulders than on the tenant's shoulders. I think it's a marketing issue, and I think it's something that you simply need to do if you look at the resources of this planet. Not wanting to be all, resourcey now, but I think it's something that you need to be competitive on the long run. Yeah, I do.
I would add on top of that, we wouldn't buy a brand new building that's not certified, no question about it. We would buy obviously a used building or a 10-year-old building which isn't certified, because it makes no economic sense to basically tear it down and rebuild it as green. But a newly built building has to be certified, otherwise we wouldn't touch it. From a rental side, it depends on the tenant. The large, the DAX, 30 will always have green leases. We're negotiating with 2 or 3 right now. It's an older building, 15 years old, but they want the paint to be clean, they want the carpeting to be clean, they want green. It's what they call a green lease. And it's imperative to have, and it makes good economic sense. I mean, the green building story out of the U.S. Has a longer track record in the reletting and the reselling. It makes good economic sense to have it. Yes, the tenants won't pay for it from day one, but of the life cycle of the building, it makes sense to have that initial slightly higher investment. So. It's not just a fad. It's an economic necessity, and it's a global necessity to be part of that.
I mean, we're certified as a company. I can't offer a product that isn't. I mean, there's a certain. I think it's, and I also think it's the right approach. I'll give you an example. We were in Dublin last week, and there isn't a certified building on the market. Why? Because the last building was built 4 years ago and was planned 7 years ago. So there was, for them, it has no relevance whatsoever. For a German tenant, it will, and it will continue to be so. And you need to have it now, because the question is going to be, you're not going to be competitive on the releasing situation. So I fully agree with Alexander that we don't say no if it's newly built, but it has to be a bloody good reason why it wasn't done. And I strongly believe developers need to get their act around that. And if we do things on a refurb, always try to be gold minimum.
But
if possible.
I mean, I'm not an engineer, but it's scary from an office point of view. You look at the 3 most modern buildings in Frankfurt: the UBS Tower, the Twin Towers of Deutsche Bank, and then the most recent one, which is just being raised right now, the Taunustor or Tishman Tower, or Tishman is building it. These buildings have all been built basically and finished within the last 3 years. The cost savings associated with the technology in these buildings, almost every 3 years, 50%. And this is if you in the office industry, it's tough. I mean, tenants are always the top tenants are benchmarking against that. You have to pay for that as an owner, and they're not willing to pay for the rent. Obviously, the rent increase is adjusted with that. So it's a pretty competitive market. I mean, big office buildings are very complex animals, and the technological change associated with them is quite dramatic. You know, you have a lifespan. Deutsche Bank had that building was, I think, 25 years old. They completely gutted it and started all over again. I mean, how many tenants or owners can do that? It's a tough market from that point of view.